All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Maddie. I'm a program manager here at Temple's Education Abroad office here in Philadelphia. I manage various study abroad programs, including our Temple Japan program, as well as all of our exchanges. So today our info session is going to be about the exchanges that we offer in Korea. This is actually very near and dear to me because I spent my junior year abroad in Korea when I was a Temple undergrad. So I'm very happy to answer any of the questions that you have and also give you a lot more information about what these programs are. So some of the things that you'll learn today in this info session include the benefits and challenges of an exchange, where and what you can study in Korea, how to apply, some of your cost considerations, and then your next steps after this if you are committed to studying in Korea sometime in the future. And just a brief slide here about why you should consider studying abroad. This is from our former peer advisor, Tom Kuklinski. He spent a year abroad in Taiwan on an exchange, and he actually ended up going on to win a Fulbright that he actually ended up declining in order to do a fully funded master's program in Taiwan. So he's saying that a lot of his opportunities came out of studying abroad, and that it made him know that studying in Taiwan and China was, something that he truly wanted to do and continue more research. So studying abroad has a lot of different benefits, including being able to know exactly what you want to do when you come out of your experience, or at least maybe changing directions if that is something that you're thinking about. So just an overview of what an exchange is. So all full-time degree-seeking students are eligible to study on an exchange, starting after their first full year of study. So we're saying the first semester of your sophomore year is the first time you're eligible to go abroad. You're eligible to go for an academic year, semester, or summer. Generally, we like to say the longer, the better. One caveat I'll mention about this is that exchange programs are only offered in the semester or the academic year. So while a lot of our exchange partners offer summer programs, the process of going to the exchange partner in the summertime is just slightly different. It's not considered an exchange, but it's more in like the administrative process. So this particular session focuses on the administrative process of an exchange, which is only an academic year or semester. I highly recommend studying abroad for a full year if you can swing it. A semester goes by very, very quickly. A year also goes by quickly when you're studying abroad, but it gives you a lot of time to really immerse yourself in the country, learn the language, and really feel like your study abroad host country is like your second home. So highly recommend, but whatever works for you. Some factors to consider when you're thinking about where you can go and when you can study abroad include your exchange university. So if you are really interested in studying abroad in Korea and you're open to any school that we offer, pretty much all of the Korean universities will accept first semester sophomores with the exception of Yonsei University. So if you want to go abroad the first semester of your sophomore year, you're welcome to do that at any other university. However, if you really want to go to Yonsei, the earliest that you can study abroad there is the second semester of your sophomore year. So you can apply, but you won't be able to, they won't let you in until you've completed at least one full year of academic study by the time you're applying to Yonsei. I'll go over the process a little bit more later, but just the heads up. Another thing to consider are your major and degree requirements. So if you are a liberal arts major and you have a lot of electives, usually you have a lot of flexibility with when you can go abroad. However, if your major is a little bit more rigid or you have specific requirements that you need to fulfill at certain times, that might dictate when is the best time for you to go abroad. For a lot of Fox business students, for example, if they want to study abroad on our Japan campus, the Japan campus doesn't offer the upper level business classes that they would need, as their Fox requirements. So they tend to go in their sophomore year to do the lower level requirements and gen eds and things like that. Whereas all the Korean universities have the upper level business requirements. So business students are able to study in Korea in their junior or senior years, and we've seen that a lot. So that's just an example of why your major and degree requirement might impact when you're going to go. So what is an exchange program? I talked about it a little bit, but an exchange program is different than other study abroad programs because you're basically enrolling in a foreign university that has a partnership with Temple. It's an agreement that's been signed. It could be many years old or it could be brand new, but we signed an agreement to allow students to travel back and forth between the institutions, and each student pays their homeschool tuition. So if you're going on an exchange program, you'll pay Temple tuition and you'll be studying at the host university like you're a student there for a year or a semester. You'll be in classes with local or other international students. So it's a very immersive kind of program. You are really just thrown right into it. It's not like a Temple Rome, for example, where you are studying alongside of only American students in like one building that's located in Rome, for example. You're actually on the Korean schools campus. You're taking classes with Korean students, with other international students. A lot of your fellow exchange students will be from all over the world. You'll get some from, Europe or Asia, Japan, or Taiwan or China. So you get to meet a lot of new people, which is really cool and exciting. You also have the chance to join clubs and various activities held by the university throughout the semester or year abroad, but otherwise it's a very independent program. You can really make it what you want it to be and just experience what life is like as a student in Korea for a period of time. So that's a really nice aspect of it. I think it gives you a really different perspective. Some of the challenges I like to mention about the exchanges, just in case, it comes up or you're thinking about, is this the right program for me? Several of these challenges that you can see on this slide are pretty much like general study abroad challenges that you would experience on any program, including Temple Rome or Temple Japan. Culture shock you could experience anywhere. Balancing schoolwork with life abroad is a very common I don't know if we call it complaint or challenge that students mention after they come back from study abroad, and they might say like, oh, I took way too many credits, and I was so serious about my schoolwork, or maybe it's the flip side. It's like, oh, I was just enjoying my time abroad and I failed all my classes. So it really is a very good balancing act to learn how to manage your schoolwork with everything that you want to do in the short amount of time that you have abroad. And this is also going to be another challenge that kind of ties in with this, is just the difference in academic structure and the academic style. So you might experience in a Korean university that your professors are really lecturing for an hour and 15 minutes and you don't have homework every night. And instead you're like, 50% of your grade is your final. So that's quite different from a Temple University in most classes, I would say. And that's another aspect of balancing school with life abroad. Loneliness and homesickness, and adjusting to a new life, including new food, commute, friends, and customs. So really just throwing yourself into a new situation. Specifically with the exchanges and with Korean exchanges, flexibility in planning is really important. You're going to have to be flexible. It's really challenging to study abroad on one of these exchanges if you have a very rigid course structure or like very specific courses that you have to take, or else you're gonna not be able to make it work. The Korean universities don't release their official course schedules for the coming terms until about a month before the term starts. So you might have access to previous course schedules, and that's actually a great way to make your plan and see what kinds of courses are offered or taught in English to exchange students, each term. And a lot of them are going to continue being offered every term. So you don't have to worry too much about everything that you plan to take is not going to be offered. However, it's possible that quite a few of them won't be offered. So you're going to make a first plan, and then you're kind of going to have to shift that plan a little bit, as you go through the whole process and really close until departure. So that it really helps to have some flexibility in the courses that you're able to take. Another challenge of an exchange is not having a huge cohort of Temple students with you. You might have maybe 5 or 6 at most. Sometimes I would say 5 or 6 is like the most per school. You might be the only one going to that school from Temple for that term. You could be the only one going to that country from Temple from that term. So that could be a challenge or a benefit depending on how you look at it, but it's something I like to mention because it is quite different from some of our other programs. All right, so I'm going to move into the specific information about each of our universities. We have 5 different exchange programs. I just realized I've done this presentation so many times, but I'm now just realizing that exchange is spelled wrong. But the Temple Korean exchange programs, we have 5 different universities that we work with, and I will, just dive right in. So the first university we have here is Ewha Women's University. It is located in the Shincheon area of Seoul. So it is a very lively college age town because there's 3 or 4 different universities just in that neighborhood. So it's very youthful, a lot of energy, very lively. Like I said, there's a lot of cafes, restaurants, shopping, like makeup stores, what have you. Like there's a ton of stuff to do in that area. So students really like it. Ewha Women's University is actually one of the largest women's universities in the world. They are, like it says, a women's school. So all of their degree seeking students are females, but the non-degree programs like exchange programs and also like the Korean language programs, they do accept male students there as well. So you might have some male student exchange students in your cohort. That's not uncommon. But that's the distinguishing factor, degree versus non-degree. For major courses, gen eds and electives, they're offered in so many different departments. Ewha has a ton of classes that are taught in English. They are really good for STEM. They have a lot of STEM courses taught in English, business classes, liberal arts. They have a lot of visual arts classes as well, and they have some communications classes too. For gen eds, I've seen students take art gen eds, human behavior, science and technology. So there are a couple of gen eds that are good fits. I've seen maybe once or twice a race and diversity get approved as well. Ewha offers Korean language courses in intensive and non-intensive formats. So if you wanted to really just hit the ground running with Korean and you wanted to do one of the 6 credit intensive classes, it's 4 or 5 days a week, 4 hours a day. So it's very intense. It's fully taught in Korean, so you're going to be thrown right into it, but you're going to really see your level improve a lot. They also have a practical Korean language course. It's the non-intensive one. It's 3 credits and it's much more lax and more about like teaching you the day-to-day language skills. Another great thing about Ewha is that it has a Peace Buddy program. It stands for Professional Ewhaians at Cultural Exchange. And basically they're like your international buddy. Before you end up in Korea, they'll usually reach out to you and say, hey, like I've been assigned, as your buddy. I'm here to, be a resource for you. And they're there during orientation to give you a campus tour, and they help you get acclimated. They're there to answer your questions and stuff like that. So it's nice to have that initial connection before you even get to the country. And that's a nice way to really start your network. So that's some of the great things about Ewha. Moving along, we're going to take a step out of Shincheon for a second. And the next university I'm going to talk about is Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, also known as HUFS. HUFS is a really interesting university. It's located in the Hwegi Hwegi area of Seoul, in the Dongdaemun district. So it's up farther north, northeast of where Shincheon is, and like kind of northeast of the central Seoul, but it's still very well connected. It has its own train station that's right down the street from the university. So it's really easy to just hop on the train and get to wherever you need to go. The university itself is very small and is focused on international studies and language education. It's really interesting, the kinds of majors you're able to study at HUFS. You might find people who are studying, Occidental languages or Scandinavian languages, like as their major. I think they teach like over 45 different languages, which is kind of cool. They have major courses, gen eds and electives. I would say it's really best for CLA. It used to be good for business, but they kind of made their point that business classes are going to be really hard for exchange students to get into. So I'm kind of shying business students away from this program. But this is really great for a student who's really interested in language or linguistics, global studies, international studies, or relations, or anything like that. It's such a diverse international campus, and it's really welcoming to international folks. They have Korean language courses in intensive and non-intensive formats, similar to EHWA. So you have the choice of which courses you like to go with. And instead of like a Peace Buddy program like EHWA has, they have an international student organization, which is kind of like a big club for international students and then folks interested in hanging out with international students. And they do a lot. They're really active. They're really vibrant and welcoming. So a lot of the exchange students really like being part of ISO. It's a really great school for those particular purposes. And moving on to the next one. Sogang University is also located in the Shincheon area of Seoul. It's a little bit smaller. Out of the Shincheon area schools, it's much smaller than those two, EHWA and Yonsei, but it is also very highly ranked, and it's in a great location. They have a ton of classes taught in English. They have major courses, gen eds and electives that students can take. They're really good for STEM, business, CLA, and FMA, for example, maybe MSP as well. I've seen a lot of psychology students enjoy Sogang because they have a lot of psych classes. For gen eds, they're really good with US Society because they have a very vibrant American Studies program. So you can usually get US Society approved, sometimes even race and diversity. And I've also seen science and technology get approved, and arts is a little bit more challenging there, but human behavior is definitely also, you can definitely find that as well. So those are the kinds of students that are, I've seen commonly go to Sogang, but really whatever works for you and your major, whatever you want to take, we're able to kind of chat with you and talk with you about what your goals are and really help you find the right program. They offer Korean language courses at various levels. The Korean language course at Sogang is an additional fee. They are really, really well known for their Korean language program. So that's probably why it's probably the best language program in the country. So if you're interested, it's a great opportunity, but it is an additional tuition fee that you will have to pay beyond what you're already paying Temple to go to Sogang. And you can it's mostly just a 3-credit course. And then exchange students get a Sogang buddy as a student mentor. So similar to EHWA, you're going to have a student mentor on campus. And they also have different clubs available for international students as well, in case you'd like to get involved. Moving on over across the street to Yonsei University. Yonsei University is also located in Shincheon. It's definitely the biggest university in that area. They are pretty much the Yale of Korea. They're one of the top universities there, and they've been very, very much at the forefront of internationalization. So they're well known. They're really large. They're a comprehensive research university. And they have a lot of international students, both degree seeking and exchange. So it's a little bit more of a place where you don't get as much hand holding in terms of having those opportunities for a buddy right out the gate, or, the ISO where it's really active and kind of everyone knows each other. You're going to have to take the initiative to make your own mark and maybe find your own clubs to get involved with. But that doesn't mean it's a bad program at all. It's just different in the way that they operate. They have a ton of courses taught in English, like really a lot of courses. And so a lot of students like to go to Yonsei. They have a lot of STEM courses. They're also good for business and CLA. I've also seen some communications courses taught there. What else? How many of their majors? Engineering. You might be able to find some things. So yeah, we could definitely, find them. And for gen eds, I've seen art, human behavior. I haven't seen US Society, I don't think, but just some ideas of what students have gotten before. And then they also have the Korean language courses in intensive and non-intensive formats. And finally, the last university is the kind of newest university we're adding to our list of promoted exchanges, and that's Hanyang University. We started sending students here in fall of 2021. And so far, so good. Students really enjoy the program. It's located in Seongdong-gu, which is close to Gangnam, if you know Gangnam area. It's like right next to the river, and it's not in the same like Shincheon area location, but it is still a pretty vibrant and easy to get around place. So I wouldn't worry too much about, feeling disconnected or anything like that. They are a private research university, but they're still rather large. They're really great for STEM and business specifically. You can find some gen eds and some electives and take some Korean courses while you're there. They're really, really well known for engineering. Like that's kind of like their primary offering, and they're like what they're like best known for. But other students can obviously go to Hanyang as well. And they also have a buddy program too, and other clubs that you can join. So I think overall, what we're seeing with all of these universities is that they all have very similar structures, I guess you could say. And the opportunities are pretty similar, although the change will be like the difference will be like for you academically what you're looking for. So if you have all these 5 schools and you don't really know, what's important to you or which one's the best choice, the first thing you're going to look at, of course, is academics. If you have to take certain classes while you're abroad and there's only one school that offers the classes that you need, there's your decision. Like that's going to be your primary choice. If you're a business student, for example, and you just need to take some upper level business classes and some electives or gen eds, you're going to have a lot more options academically. So we will move down the list to location. What's important to you location wise? Where would you like to be? Costs can also be a part of this. If you are interested in keeping costs as low as possible, look for a university that's maybe outside of the Central Seoul area, like Hufs, for example. The cost of the dormitory at Hufs is like $600 cheaper per semester than like the Shincheon universities. Language courses, if you're interested in doing specifically language opportunities, that could drive your decision. Immersion opportunities like buddy programs or clubs, support systems, like maybe you're looking for a school with a medical center on campus like Yonsei, or you need a school that has, certain types of counseling services, that could affect your decisions as well. And then finally, if you kind of get through the list and you're still not, you're not feeling connected, or maybe you haven't made your decision yet, think about the mission, focus, or goals of the university. Watch some of the promotional videos, watch some videos of students who've studied at those schools on exchange, and see what they say. You might think, why would I want to study at a women's university? But it could be a really empowering experience to go to Ewha, where it's like the first women's school in Korea, and it taught a lot of the female leaders of the country, politicians and lawyers and judges. I'm going all political, but doctors, and really like it's a very important school within Korea's history. So that might be something new for you to try and see. Or maybe you want to study at a place like Hufs, where it's very internationalized and you have a lot of different students around you that you can learn from. So that will all be part of your decision making. But if you have any questions, or maybe you're not sure, you're always welcome to make an appointment with me and talk through your sorry, I'm getting a lot of messages, and talk through your plans and see if I can help guide you to the right place, at least maybe making a first choice and a second choice school. Living in Korea is something that I think is going to be different for everybody in terms of the experience that you'll have. But culture-wise, there's a lot of rich culture that you'll be able to experience at while you're studying abroad. And there are certain aspects of the culture that you might feel are, you might have to adhere to, or you're a little worried about offending people. I wouldn't worry about that at all. You are there to learn, and people are going to be really friendly and try to get you to, they're very excited that you're attempting to learn the culture, at least. And the same goes for language. So I think especially if you don't look like a Korean person, they're not going to expect you to speak Korean or know every aspect of culture. They will encourage you to maybe learn, or you might get yelled at in the case of like, you know, you walk into a restaurant where you're supposed to take your shoes off and you don't take your shoes off. But then you won't make that mistake again. But language wise, I would recommend taking a Korean language class while you're there or before you go. It'll be really helpful to make your experience a lot more, what do you say, like a lot more in depth, something like that. You'll be able to meet a lot more people and have interesting conversations. Food wise, there's a ton of food you can eat in Korea. Like Korean cuisine is so diverse and there's so many amazing things to eat. I miss Korean food and food in Korea so bad. I'm able to eat Korean food here, but you know, it's not the same. So food wise, it's relatively cheap to get food in Korea. And you know, the cost of living, cost of eating is not that bad. If you have any food allergies or dietary restrictions, that can be a little bit challenging in Korea because they're just not as well known there. So you might need to bring like an allergy card with you that says like in Korean, like what your allergy is, and maybe go onto some blogs or some YouTube videos and see if there's other people that have experienced or that have tips or something that have the same restrictions as you, and like see what they have to say. Travel wise, there's a lot of things to see within the country. A lot of students, they don't really travel outside of Korea that much. You know, there's plenty of ways to get around the country relatively cheaply. There's trains, there's buses, there's taxis, there's subways, there's many more things, and they're all not too bad. So a lot of students will travel around the country, go to Jeju Island, you know, fly over there or go to Busan. And it's just nice to see different parts of the country. If you do travel outside of the country, you know, it's easy to get right on the train to the airport and then, you know, hop on the plane and then come back. So a lot of students will do that. And then of things to do, you know, Seoul is a 24-hour city. It's lively. There's, you know, so many different things to explore. You see this picture here, that's Myeongdong, that's famous for shopping. But there's like, if I don't know if you can read Korean, but if you can't, there's like restaurants all up in here, like so many stories of restaurants on top of shops, on top of, you know, other restaurants. And then you got karaoke you can go to. You've got exploration, just riding on the subway and checking out new neighborhoods in the city of Seoul. You know, there's nightlife, there's restaurants, and you know, what else is there? There's so many things. Cafes, that was one thing I always did, was like when I didn't have anything else to do, I would just go to a cafe and like study a little bit of Korean while I was there, just to get out of my room. So having 24-hour cafes was the best. All right, finance wise, are exchanges affordable? And the answer is yes, it can be more affordable than you think. So you will be billed by Temple for Temple tuition. You're going to pay the same tuition rate that you would pay if you were studying on main campus for that term. You'll also be charged university services fees. Housing will be paid directly to your host university, but tends to be cheaper than Temple housing. So like I said, the Tufts versus the other schools, I'd say most dorm prices tend to be around $1,800, $1,850 for the entire semester. So, you know, that's something you can think about budgeting out. Most schools will ask that you pay it like shortly after you arrive. Some will ask you to wire the money in advance. If you get your own housing, you could do that as well. You can maybe live with a host family, or you could find like a home share or something like that, where you're, you know, living in your own apartment. And that's fine too. You just need to, you know, pay that provider directly out of your pocket. It's not going to come through Temple. You can use your financial aid and scholarships that you already get with your, you know, financial aid package towards the program. It just shows up on your TU Pay, like you were studying on main campus. You can also apply for additional scholarships, specifically for study abroad. There's the Gilman Scholarship. That's for students who get a Pell Grant with their financial aid package. Awesome opportunity. You can get up to $5,000. And then because Korean is considered a critical need language, that's eligible for the critical need language award. On top of the Gilman Awards, so that's an additional $3,000 you can get. You can get up to $8,000 to study in Korea through Gilman. So definitely check that out. The other one is a Temple Exchange Scholarship, which is offered through our office. You can access that through your study abroad application. And just save your money. I mean, if you're interested in studying abroad, whether that's Korea or anywhere else, it's always a good idea to start setting aside some money, maybe a couple bucks a week or however much you can afford, and just stash that away, because sometimes even if you get scholarships or financial aid, sometimes that takes a while to get dispersed to you, and if that becomes a problem, you're not going to have the money in the beginning to get settled. That's a big, the first couple weeks are usually the big period of when you need to spend some money in order to get, your towels and other things that you didn't bring with you. So it's always good to have that extra money or to save it for travel experiences. All right, let's look at the application process. In order to be eligible, you have to be a currently matriculated full-time student, have completed at least 2 semesters of college, and your cumulative GPA has to be at least a 2.75. If you are a transfer student, that includes your previous transfer transcripts. So we'll combine your scores from Temple and from your transfer school in order to calculate your GPA. Same goes for the 2 semesters of college. If you transferred in, we count those as your semesters as well. You have to be in good academic and disciplinary standing, no academic warning or disciplinary probation. Deadlines for fall and academic year, it's March 1st. For spring, it's September 1st, but we also do spring priority. So our exchange programs are not reviewed on a rolling basis. Those applications, we don't review, and you don't get a decision within 2 weeks. You get a decision after the deadline passes. And the reason for this is because exchanges can be rather competitive. We only get a limited number of spots per year to send students on exchange. So we want to look at the entire pool of applicants and determine based on that who is awarded the spots for the exchange programs. This is why we have a spring priority deadline for some of the more competitive applications. Students can apply by March 1st and secure their spot early, and then they'll be able to keep moving forward with the spring semester. This is becoming more of an issue with Korean universities overall, but it's definitely hitting Yonsei the hardest, and then Ewha and Hanyang. So those 3 schools are getting a little bit competitive with the number of students that we can send. So that's why it's always good to apply as early as possible. If you're interested in 23-24, your deadline is going to be March 1st, 2023, and I would recommend just getting your application in as early as possible. You're welcome to start an application if you're interested in spring 2023. Definitely start an application and get something in by September 1st. And with whatever spaces we have left, maybe you could get the spot. We don't know the pool of applicants right now, but maybe you could get the spot, or we can talk to you about other opportunities that we can maybe go to a different university, but have also a very important and life-changing experience. The process of actually doing this program, first you're going to apply to Temple. You're going to go to our website. You're going to go to the exchange program page that you want to apply to. You're going to click apply now. You're going to fill out that application, and then you're going to wait. After you're approved by Temple, we're going to give you the information of how to complete the application for the university itself. You're going to apply to the exchange university. It's really just a formality. If anything, it's more of like an administrative process. They just want to collect all the information at once. But if you've been nominated, usually they're not going to reject you. After you go through that process, you're going to get your courses approved for transfer to Temple. You're going to get all this information about how that works. And then most of your pre-departure preparations will be led by your host university. So Sogong, for example, will send you the information about pre-departure and getting your visa and the documents that you need to do that, and the housing information and when you need to arrive. So I'm here to kind of assist you in deciphering a lot of that information, or maybe, giving you some advice, but most of the actual concrete information will be coming from your host school. All right, so now we're getting towards the end of the presentation. If you want to start, it's a good idea to plan as early as possible. You can definitely make it work if you are just getting around to the deadline and you're just making your decision. It's okay, you can still make it work. But the earlier you plan, the less stressful it's going to be in the long run, and the more time you're going to have to work things out. If you're a freshman right now and you're interested in going abroad in your junior year, for example, You can talk to your academic advisor and just say, hey, like I really want to go to this school my junior year. Like, what would be the best, courses for me to take? I've looked at all of these classes, they seem similar at XYZ. Your advisor might say, like, wow, this looks like a great opportunity. You can definitely take, looks like you can definitely take your like upper level business classes while you're there or something like that. Or they might say, well, you should probably think about studying in your sophomore year, or maybe let's hold off on taking your gen eds. You can just take your major classes now, and then you'll take your gen eds while you're abroad. So that's always a good idea to get it done out early, so that you're like less restricted when you're going abroad. Attend foundations if you haven't already. General first step info session about how to study abroad, how it works. If you're a freshman or first year transfer, have never had a passport before, I recommend applying for the passport scholarships. Great opportunity. And if you don't know, maybe you want to look into different opportunities for your school and college. We have school college guides on our website, which basically lays out which programs are best for you, but depending on what classes you want to take. Contact us if you have any questions. We're located at 200 Tuttleman, study.abroad at temple.edu, or 215-204-0720. And follow us on social media. That's all I have for my presentation today. I know I kind of sped through the last part, but does anybody have any questions for me? Feel free to just throw them in the chat if you do. If not, thank you so much for coming and for listening to our presentation. If you have any questions later on that you'd like to maybe ask me directly, I'm happy to take those questions. My email is madeline@temple.edu. So just my first name @temple. Feel free to send me anything. Yeah. All right. If there's no other questions, thank you for coming. We'll wrap up here. Oh, understood. We'll wrap up here.